action.
Hello out there, and Happy New Year. Welcome to our first episode of 2015. My name is Justyn. I'm with my longtime friend Ken, and you're listening to The Long Take. Welcome. How you doing, Ken? Happy New Year.
Hello, Justyn. I'm doing pretty good. Happy New Year to you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to all. Yeah, the holiday season is behind us. We can look back fondly and look forward to the year ahead. It was kind of a stressful time, actually. You know, the older you get, I think the more stressful the holidays get.
Yeah, that's true. Especially when you're trying to visit. I mean, I had some stress.
Yeah, you were trekking. You went all across the country almost.
Oh, yeah! I flew
basically,
from.
Yeah, you traveled. You traversed this.
Disappointed too because I wanted to be like if we were going to be doing podcasts.
Yeah.
During my trek, I was going to be like, and I'm in Pittsburgh, and now I'm in New Jersey. Like, it would have been like, what? You're not in L.A.? But now I'm back in L.A. It's not exciting, but, it's not a big deal that I live in L.A., whatever.
It was nice to see you, though, even though it was brief, for a couple hours. We got to hang out, catch up, talk, see each other.
Yeah, it was nice. We were going to see Inherent Vice together, but that didn't happen.
Well, it's not every day that your good friend calls you up and says, hey, do you want to come see the Giants play the Eagles? And I said, wow, I did have plans to see a movie. You know what I mean? Didn't want him to have to swallow a $120 ticket, so I went with him. I figured that was the right thing to do.
We teased that we were going to be talking about Inherent Vice and Paul Thomas Anderson in previous episodes.
Yeah.
We won't be doing that this time around, but I think that has to be our next. Well, we're going to do. I talked about this with you before, and I think this is a good idea.
What's that?
Because I don't have my Paul Thomas Anderson DVDs. I don't have. I've been living here for 6 months.
Yeah.
I finally got the DVDs out of my parents' attic. So they're down, they're in the garage, they're on the ground floor. They're going to ship them to me. I felt like a jerk making this feel so important, but it's important to me. I've so many that I've, bought over the years, and
sure.
I couldn't lug them with me to California on a plane. That would have been stupid. So, I was like, oh yeah, we'll ship it to you. Yeah. Well, I haven't gotten any of them. And you know what happened because of that?
No.
I started to get the itch, Justyn. I was like, I don't have any DVDs or Blu-rays on me. I gotta buy some. So I bought Fantastic Mr. Fox. Started buying new ones. I bought Chinatown on Blu-ray and all these other things. And I think I have thanks to Black Friday where I bought 10 more. I bought 10 Blu-rays that day.
Yeah.
I think I bought 20, 25 DVDs, Blu-rays since I moved here. And I probably bought 10 Blu-rays / DVDs. Before then, I may have bought 10 in 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of Netflix and all that stuff. I never really needed to. But I needed to have some in my possession, you know what I mean? So I started to get lonely, they keep me company, you know what I mean?
What do you do, Amazon?
Yeah, well, I did for Black Friday. I did Best Buy and Amazon. I got 2 on Amazon and 8 on Best Buy. I mean, they had some really great deals, and I've been doing it for the past 3 years. When I got
Cyber Monday or whatever.
Yeah, Cyber Monday. They expand that though. It lasts a week now.
Oh yeah.
And so I bought when I first got my Blu-ray player 3 years ago. That's when I really discovered Cyber Monday. I was like, oh wow, you could buy Blu-rays on the cheap here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I bought 13, 14 for $55. It was insane. I bought my Blu-ray. I had maybe 2 Blu-rays at that point. My Blu-ray player. I bought my Blu-ray player. I had maybe 2 movies at that point that I could put on it. That's not DVD. Mm. And then after that, after Cyber Monday, I had close to 20 Blu-rays already. And then I may have bought 2 or 3 throughout the year for until the next Cyber Monday. And the next Cyber Monday I bought 13, 14 more. And then this year I bought 10 more. So I got close to 40 Blu-rays. and more than half is because of Cyber Monday. You got to get on that.
Yeah, I've yet to take advantage of Cyber Monday. I got a couple gift cards for Christmas, so I was on Amazon. I was just texting the other day. I wanted to buy Doctor Strangelove Blu-ray, but it's like $77, which I can't even...
Really?
Yeah, I texted you. You didn't write back.
Yeah. I saw it, but it didn't really. Yeah, it's funny because I have Doctor Strangelove on DVD. It's like I think it's the 40-year anniversary, which is crazy because it came out 50 years ago. But yeah.
But yeah, I can't believe that it's that expensive. I was just, but I was able to get some pretty cool deals. Usually, like, Blu-rays under $10. It's not too hard to find that on Amazon, so I'm looking forward to them coming in the mail. It's really nice to just open up that box, rip open that tape, and just look at your, I don't know, for movie lovers, it's up there.
And it's better that way than, like, when you're a kid or when you're a teenager and you hope that, like, because towards the end of, like, my Christmas list years, I was basically just writing movies I wanted.
Yeah. I did that a couple times this year because my girlfriend was like, my dad wants to know what you want for Christmas. And I was just like, any of these 5 Blu-rays.
Yeah. I remember one year, I think I asked for something that, like, they couldn't find. Mm-hmm. And, like, it's... So, like, you gotta be careful. You gotta make sure that what you're asking for is readily available, especially now.
Yeah,
because you only got Target and Best Buy and
Walmart,
a couple others, Walmart,
Amazon.
And then you go on Amazon, but then like that stuff. I mean, they're good with shipping it now, but still, like buying something for somebody else, you want to like get it, wrap it. And,
in time. It's funny that you mentioned like availability because my uncle asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I told him that I wanted the Inherent Vice soundtrack on vinyl because I had seen a link about it or something at some point in December.
Dude.
And he got it for me, but he wasn't able to wrap it up because it doesn't come out till March. So he gave me the confirmation. He printed out the confirmation. In addition to other gifts, but
it'd be funny if he somehow actually got the actual release. And, like, he has, like, scratches on his head and, like... You don't understand what I had to go through to get this.
What is it, like that one movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Jingle All the Way?
Jingle All the Way, yes. It's a very important lesson in that movie.
Yeah, that's what you should do.
You know what? The only reason why... I saw that movie in theaters. Did you see that movie in theaters?
God, probably.
Because my older sister, made us go. She wanted to see it for some reason. And what I remember about Jingle All the Way is Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sinbad, and Phil Hartman in one movie, which is the weirdest combination that I could think of. It's just So
it must have been one of Hartman's last movies.
I think Small Soldiers was his last movie. I think he voiced one of the characters in that, and I think he plays a role too.
I saw that in theaters when I was a kid.
I don't think I did. I think I waited. I don't know. That movie was kind of like capitalizing on Toy Story a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
I thought.
Interesting about Jingle All the Way, that was on over Christmas. We wanted to watch, I think, one movie, but we couldn't for some reason, so we were looking at On Demand, and Jingle All the Way was like the only Christmas movie that was on demand.
Really?
And, I don't know, a friend of ours has like an interesting cable situation going on. But, long story short... who's in that movie that kind of gets overlooked is young Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, Jake something.
Jake Lloyd. He plays the son. I was like, that is him. That's what he did before.
Do you think George Lucas, like his research for Jake Lloyd, he watched Jingle All the Way, and
he probably watched it 5 or maybe 6 times.
Yeah, like could you imagine like. He watches Jingle All the Way, he sees Jake Lloyd, and he's like, that's Anakin Skywalker.
That's Darth Vader.
That's my guy.
That's him. He embodies the dark side. Look at those bangs.
It makes too much sense.
Yeah.
I think that movie embodies the dark side. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I think there's some evil attached to that movie. It's a little too...
Consumerism? Greed?
No, it's just not a... I just remember it being like an intensely bad movie. Like like aggressively bad.
I don't think I remember it being that bad when I was young, but watching it at this time, like, we only watched it for like 10 minutes before I was like, nah, let's put this off. Let's find something else. We can't watch this.
Yeah, no. When I was 10 when I saw it.
And you knew then?
I knew then. I was like, this is not... I knew it was a bad movie.
There's
I just
something
knew
going on here. This movie is not like other movies. This movie is bad.
Is it, that's interesting. Like, our very first episode, we talked about movies that we like, you know...
Those childhood movies.
Our favorite childhood movies, but it's hard to remember. It's harder to remember, I guess, like, movies that you're like, wow, this is bad. And it's actually bad. Not because, like, it's beyond you or it's too adult, but you're just like, no, this is actually a bad movie.
Yeah, your childhood brain is fully aware of how shitty this movie is.
You know what? Oh my god. You know what movie I just came to my head?
What?
Which I remember like enjoying it, but I felt like it wasn't a good movie. It was, I can't remember what it's called now, but
Buzzkill.
Maybe if I tell you the premise,
All right, we'll see.
The guy, what's his face?
You're off to a great start.
He died like 10 years ago. He was in it was a Three's Company. What's his name?
Ritter?
John Ritter. Yeah, he buys a huge ass satellite. You know what I'm talking about.
Keep going.
He puts it in his backyard, and he gets sucked into the satellite, and so he ends up being on all these different TV channels. Do you know what I'm talking about?
That sounds vaguely familiar. Did it come out in the 90s?
Yes, it came out like 1992, 1993, and I remember like enjoying the premise a lot. It's like when you're a kid, when there's like a cool premise like that, you can enjoy it even if it's bad.
Yeah.
But I had a feeling it was a bad movie. It felt like a bad movie. But it was kind of, there's some cool things about it. Like, in order to get out of the TV channel world, like he had to like.
Found it. Is it called Stay Tuned?
Yeah, I think so.
Something's weird on the air. A husband and wife are sucked into a hellish TV and have to survive a gauntlet of twisted versions of TV shows they find themselves in.
That's it. Yeah, who was Jeffrey Jones? He was also in...
Yeah, Jeffrey Jones, Pam Dawber...
Freaking Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Jeffrey
right?
Jones. I love IMDb. Yeah, he was the principal.
You know what's weird about Jeffrey Jones? Like, he looks like a pedophile. I mean, it turned out he was a pedophile.
Are you serious?
It's so weird. Yeah, he was arrested in 2003 for possession of child pornography and accused of soliciting a 14-year-old boy to pose for pornographic photographs. He pleaded no contest to a felony charge. His punishment was 5 years probation, counseling, requirement to register as a sex offender. Yeah. Did he still get work after that?
I mean, it's Hollywood. You never know. Sinbad and Phil Hartman. You had mentioned them before, being in Jingle All the Way, and I'm looking at a picture.
House Guest. Yeah. Okay.
House Guest with Jeffrey Jones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. We're getting way off topic.
Well, we didn't even get to our topic yet.
Yeah, well, we're getting off on a tangent. We're drifting out to sea, to a place, unknown territory. We're talking about Jeffrey Jones, of all people.
Well, no, that's an interesting thing, though, you know, because, like... And look, he kind of looked like a pedophile, but... You know,
he was his picture loaded, too.
He was entertaining... he was entertaining for what he did. You know, he played, like, really jerky characters...
Yeah.
You know, he was kind of like, if you couldn't find this guy, like, I think who was one of the most underappreciated actors of our time is shit. Hold on. I'm googling.
Firing on all cylinders today.
He was in Happy Gilmore. He was the bad guy. Christopher something.
Oh God.
Christopher McDonald.
Okay.
They both kind of played like these like intense jerks.
Yeah, you're right. They did.
But I love Christopher. I actually love Christopher McDonald. I like over the years. I developed an appreciation for him.
He always plays.
And you know
that
what's
guy,
funny?
Doesn't he?
Huh?
He's always playing that guy.
He's always playing like these jerks.
Yeah.
But he's so entertaining. And I realized when I watched Happy Gilmore, I don't know, like 2 years ago, whatever. But Christopher McDonald really tried in Happy Gilmore. He really, as Shooter McGavin, like his lines are great, and he's great in that movie. I think he's fantastic, and he's always, I always feel like he always brings it. You know, he always kind of brings it, and like I don't think he's really appreciated that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're like a lot of those guys get overlooked though. When you look back, you don't really appreciate them until you watch those movies again for the first time, and who knows? Like I can't remember. Growing up, I wasn't as big on Adam Sandler as like Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. Somebody had to actually like show me those movies. I didn't really know about them until I was introduced.
My sister made us see Jingle All the Way. I made everybody see Waterboy because I thought the premise again. You know, I was a kid, and the premise I thought was just hilarious. Like we're going out the Waterboy at the football games. Like what? You know, I don't know. Speaking of, you know what that makes me think of because ESPN is featured on that.
Yeah,
and I was taken aback by the fact that Stuart Scott I
was hoping we would
ESPN.
get a chance to talk about that, even though it's not really movie related.
It's not movie related, although he's been in. I'm pretty sure he's played SportsCenter anchors in movies.
Yeah, well, it's just that's a figure that we're both fans of sports as well as movies. We've got other things that we like, and sports is one of the things that we have in common. And you grow up watching SportsCenter. Like that was part of my my morning ritual. Like I'd get up for school. I'd be like one of the first ones up in the house, and I'd put on ESPN low enough so it doesn't wake anybody up. But like it would be those guys. It would be Stuart Scott and the rest of the
Rich Eisen,
Chris Berman, all those dudes. And Linda Cohn, is that her name? Yeah,
Linda Cohn. Yeah, usually when I was in elementary school, it was either Eisen and Stuart Scott, or it was Keith Olbermann and Dan Patrick. Those were like the. I mean, I can't even watch SportsCenter now because it's just not the same without those. But those combinations, they had like the perfect.
Yeah, there was something
tone.
about it. It was fantastic, and I was watching actually before we got this going. I was watching some footage because it happened. I was at work when it happened, or when I heard about it, so I couldn't really. No, I wasn't that day. I don't know. I remember what I found out in the morning, and I never really had a chance to like really turn on the TV or get online and look at some of the old footage or people's reactions. So I was doing that today before we talked, and it was pretty. It's pretty fresh in my mind, and I'm really sad about it because he was a young guy, a father of two.
Yeah,
and he was just really, really fucking good at what he did. And
he just seems so he just seems so positive, Like he seems such a positive guy, at least on screen. And from what we hear from other people, it seems like he was like that. When TV wasn't, when the cameras weren't on, he was always like such a positive guy.
Yes, from what I watched today, yeah. I mean, he had Keyshawn Johnson was in tears talking about him. Did you watch that bit where the NFL Live guys?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, and I saw what the Rich Eisen one.
Yeah, that was heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's really sad. 49. My grandpa was 57 when he died. Or 57 or 58, and that's young. And when I was a kid growing up, I was just like, I thought that was normal, because I was, I'm 10, that's old, or 12 or whatever. That's an old man, but it's not. And then 49, that's even worse. That's not fair, and you shouldn't have to do that. Your family shouldn't have to lose you like that to cancer.
I know. I mean, he got cancer 7 years ago. So almost throughout his entire 40s, he was battling cancer. That's just. It boggles my mind to 40 is 13 years from now. You know what I mean? And it's crazy how that could just change everything that you got going for yourself in life.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And it really puts things in perspective. We're not that far away from there. We still got some time, but we're not that far away.
Yeah, it wasn't like Stuart Scott was an unhealthy guy. He looked, he looked perfectly fine. For when he was doing SportsCenter and all that stuff, he looked in shape and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it just happened to him. It really puts things in perspective because it could happen to anybody.
Do you know what kind of cancer he had?
I can look it up, but he was battling it.
Yeah, 3 times or over the course of what you said, 7 years or something.
Mm-hmm. It's just tough, It's tough when. someone like that who was like kind of like an everyday TV personality, someone that you see every day on.
You almost take somebody like that for granted because you're just so used to seeing them when you turn on ESPN or something. Some sports game. Did he do commentary? I think he did. Like, no, he was just doing.
Well, he would do like, he'd be one of the hosts of like Monday Night Football and all that stuff. And, it's sad because like I liked him, but then like I don't know, when I was a teenager in my 20s, like I kind of we all get cynical, and like I started not really liking his style anymore. It just kind of got old to me, which isn't really fair. That's what he was. That's what he brought to the thing. But I don't want to like sugarcoat it too much, like because we always like I think it's only fair to be honest, with these things, and like I wasn't. Maybe I wasn't really fair all the time with regards to him because I sometimes like I felt like he overused his catchphrases. He always went back to them and so like by like 15, 16, I was like, oh, Stuart Scott. You kind of took him for granted, but like you realize like he was just he when he did it, it felt natural. Like there's a lot of sports anchors now that like try to force that style and they don't really pull it off. You know what I mean? It's kind of fun. There was actually a Saturday Night Live sketch in the mid to late 90s, and Tim Meadows was playing Stuart Scott.
Yeah.
And Ray Romano, who was hosting that episode, was like he was playing a new sports anchor, and he was like trying like. He's gonna like he was doing weird catchphrases, like trying to force new catchphrases, and he'd be like, "Oh, and you're not gonna kiss his mother with that mouth," or something like that. And it's like, what are you doing? But it's just because of Stuart Scott. Like all of a sudden, other sports anchors are trying to like come up with their catchphrase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Stuart Scott just made it look natural, even if I took it for granted and. I wasn't really in love with him during when I grew up later on. Like, looking back now, I think that he probably did what he did the best, and maybe that's what it is. Like, other sports anchors probably diluted it, so it made Stuart Scott look bad by comparison. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I don't know. It's hard to find, it's hard to really, wrap it all up, talking about a guy who's, I had so much more to offer. But at the same time, it's like we're talking about a dude that we just miss watching on TV, and there's a whole other guy, there's a whole other aspect of his life that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that. I mean, he was only 49. I mean, if he didn't get cancer, who knows? He would have had maybe like another 20 years. Or another 15 years or whatever. Yeah, he looked great.
Like John Madden and Pat Summerall, they were doing it into like their 60s and 70s. Right?
Yeah. And Chris Berman like is close to 60 and he's still doing it. And he's been on ESPN since it started. So
yeah.
I mean, those guys are on forever, and like it's just hard to believe that like they could just be gone. I mean, this Roger Ebert was a lot older. He was 70 when he died, but like he wasn't. You didn't really get to see him on TV the last couple of years of his life. It looked like he really liked Stuart Scott. Well, unlike Stuart Scott, it really looked like Roger Ebert really just had a tough time with. Because he had like throat cancer or like
Yeah, he had to have that surgery. He couldn't talk anymore.
And and like with both those guys, you watched them on TV every day, or with Ebert you read his reviews, every week, and like you just kind of rely on them for like the stuff they bring to the table, and all of a sudden they're just gone, or with like Scott and Ebert. Like the last few years, they weren't around as much because of what they were going through.
Yeah.
And then they're gone. It's just like you're like, wait, I want you back. I miss you.
We weren't done. We loved what you did, and we want you to keep doing it. It sucks. That's really the only thing I can say. It sucks. I'm looking back at the tweet that he let out. A thing that he and Ebert had in common. Their presence on Twitter. And November 11th, not even 2 months ago, he says, rumor about me in hospice, not true, airball, swing and a miss. I continue treatment for C and missed some work, but no hospice. Fighting, yes. And that's just like, he kept that attitude, I guess, till the very end, that he's going to fight this thing and beat this thing for his girls and for his family.
Yeah. But we're going to try to swallow that lump in our throats and pull through, and yeah, we'll be okay. but yeah. So I feel like we should have said this at the top of the episode, but this.
Why don't we dedicate this episode to Stuart Scott?
We're dedicating this to Stu. This episode is going to be as cool as the other side of the pillow.
There you go.
I don't think I make that line work, but okay.
No
so
one will do it like you, so we shouldn't even try.
Mm-hmm. No one will do it like Stu is what you want is what you should say, but but this is not our top 10 of 2014 episode, top 10 films.
Oh no!
Why? Because we're not done with 2014 yet. Are you? I'm not done. Are you?
I still have a lot to watch.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I gotta see A Most Violent Year still. I gotta see Selma. I gotta see Inherent Vice again. I gotta see American Sniper, even though I heard that wasn't that great. I still gotta. I had to see it anyway. Whatever. Yeah. What we're gonna be talking about in this episode is our top 10 movies of the 2010s. That's 2010 to 2014. 5 years there. I know it seems like 4 years because you think 2014 minus 2010 is 4.
Ken, that's what I thought at first. 4, but then I thought
like,
about it.
what the hell, right?
I thought about it, and you're right. It is 5 years because
isn't that shit confusing? That shit's kind of confusing.
It's math, man. It's math. It's hard.
Math is hard because, like,
hard work.
You say, like, okay, 4 minus 1 is 3, but 4, 3, 2, 1. Those are 4 numbers.
Am I right?
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Are you right?
How many times, seriously, how many times in your life had you had to have that conversation where it's like, oh, no, yeah, I'll see you in 8 days, next Tuesday. And they're like, no, wait, I thought that's 7 days. No, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You're like, oh, right.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually 8 days there, even though if you subtract, it's 7 days. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, like, like you have like, you're in school and you have Christmas off and you have New Year's off. Like, you only have 7 days off. And it's like, actually, it's 8 days. I was that guy. I was like, actually, it's
you were that smug asshole that knew better than everybody else. Put your finger in the air. Actually, it's 8 days. Thank you.
I didn't have many friends. Okay,
we're gonna take a break at this point,
and we'll come back and we'll do numbers 10 through 6 of our top 10 movies. Top 10 movies of the 2010s.
Boom, 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 boom. Cue the music.
Hey there, boys and girls. Justin here. We had a lot of fun making this episode, and we hope that you're enjoying it. Just wanted to take some time to let you know that we really want the long take to be an interactive experience. We want to hear from you. Like something you hear? Let us know. Or maybe you disagree with something we said. Tell us just how wrong we were when we said that one thing that you didn't like. Nothing is off the table. And who knows, you may wind up being a future guest on the show. You can contact the show on Twitter at TLT Podcast, or send an email to tltpodcast@gmail.com. Ken and I hope to hear from you very soon. Thanks again for listening. Now, back to the show.
Hello, everybody. This is Kenneth Guidry from Los Angeles with my boy, my pal, my friend, Justyn Moore, who is out in New Jersey. And we are about to go into our top 10 movies of the 2010s. 2010s to present. Yes, this decade isn't over yet, but you know what? Who knows what's going to happen in 2020? Justin and I might not be friends anymore. Maybe we'll reenact a scene from Star Wars The Force Awakens, and Justin will whack me with a stick. Oh, wait, we weren't supposed to tell that story, were we?
Yeah, we weren't going to go into all that, but You know what?
All right. Well, what I'm saying is this: what if like something happens to us?
The way you tell it puts all the blame on me. I mean, I get that most of the blame is on me, but come on. You know, that was a long time ago. We were kids, and I got a little taken away, taken to a galaxy far, far away.
I have nightmares about it every day. But
would you say it was the look in my eyes?
It was the look in your eyes, man. But what I'm saying is, let's do this, because you know what? I feel like we've reached a good point, because the 2010s have been a fantastic decade so far. Definitely better than 2000 to 2004. You look back at those years, and there's a lot of shit there. Most of the great movies from those years are foreign movies, which is great. But like a lot of the Hollywood movies were just shit. I mean, you know, look at who won the Oscars those years, and you'll see what I mean. I mean, there's some bright spots, but a lot of shit too. But the 2010s have been great, and that's why I'm excited to talk about them, because you know what, this is the 5th episode of the long take, and so you don't really know us that much, I mean, so it's not like you already know what our favorite movies from 2010, 11, 12, and 13 are. So let's get into this shit.
Let's do it. You go first.
Alright, so number 10 on my list. Number 10 was the toughest one to do on my list, because the movie that's on there wasn't even in my top 5 of the 2010s. It was number 6, but I really, really enjoyed this movie when I saw it. But at the time, when I made my top 10 of 2010's list, I just didn't feel that it was important enough, and I put important in quotations, to be in my top 5 or even the best movie of 2010. I was afraid. I don't know. I was afraid of putting it in my number 1 or number 2, just because I didn't think it was like a list topper at the time, But I've seen it like 7 or 8 times since. I have the DVD. I've watched the behind the scenes multiple times, and I've watched the actual movie several times. I watched the commentary. Like, when I put this movie on, I can't get enough of it. I love this movie. Number 10 is David Fincher's The Social Network. Justin, how do you feel about that pick? What do you think about that? Huh?
I have to get over the build up there. That was very impressive. The way I didn't know where you were going to go with that until you said.
I kind of stumbled over a few words, but thank you.
Great pick. I agree.
Do you understand what I mean, though? Because when you think about it, it's about Harvard grads or dropouts, and I mean, their story is interesting, but I think that was my problem at the time, because that year you had 127 Hours, and you had Black Swan, and and those movies were really impressive too, and they felt bigger. They felt like bigger stories. Yeah. When you compare it to Social Network, but I've seen Social Network, like I said, 7 or 8 times. I've only seen 127 Hours once. I mean, I want to see it again eventually, but I never really felt the need to see it again. And with Black Swan, I saw it again. I saw it a second time, a few years afterwards. And when it wasn't on the big screen, it just wasn't as impressive. The shocks, the scares, and all that stuff, it just wasn't as impressive to me. It's still a great movie, but it didn't really hit me the way it did when I saw it in theaters. With The Social Network, it's so engrossing. When you start from the opening scene, which for me is one of the best scenes of dialogue in the past 5 years, right? That alone, between Rooney Mara, which is insane. You see her in that movie, and then a year later she's in Girl with Dracula Tattoo. Yeah. Just the transformation. But her and Jesse Eisenberg, the back and forth, I feel like that was Aaron Sorkin who wrote the movie at his absolute best. I don't think he's ever written dialogue as good before or since. And I've seen The West Wing, so I know. I feel like I know what I'm talking about.
You know your shit. You know what you're talking
I know my shit. I will say he wrote Charlie Wilson's War.
Yeah.
Hold on. Fire truck. Fuck it. He wrote Charlie Wilson's War, and that scene between Philip Seymour Hoffman and
where he quits.
That's a pretty fucking great scene too.
Is that the one where he quit, where he breaks the window or something?
Yes. Yeah.
It's so good.
It's good. That's a pretty damn great scene too. But I think that the opening scene, it just with Social Network, it sets the bar high.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Social Network is that it doesn't lose its momentum. You know, when that scene's over, Mark Zuckerberg's running through campus, and I just watching it again, like just watching his opening credits where he's just jogging through campus.
You could listen to that music that and Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, those two. That music as he's just walking around and the way it's shot. And, I wish that was just on all the time as I'm doing chores around the house.
I don't know. I feel like if that was on, I'd feel really serious what I was doing.
It would be.
It'd feel really intense.
With purpose.
Do. Yeah, and you know what's great about the movie also is that you have all these actors who are in their 20s, carrying this movie, really carrying this movie, really making it feel, like I said, coming out of the movie and looking back on it the first time at least, you're like, well, was this movie really that important? Is these characters really, do they really matter that much? But when you're watching the movie, nothing feels more important than what's going on. And that is great screenwriting. Yeah. That's great directing. And, it reminds me of like some of the great movies of the 70s, like All the President's Men or something like that, where it's just like great writing, great directing, great acting, and it's like, a screenwriter at the top of his game. Or you think of Network, Patty Chayefsky, who wrote the screenplays in Network. Sidney Lumet directed the movie, and you have all these great actors in it just doing their best. And what's even more exciting about Social Network is that these actors haven't really... They're like... Each actor in that movie is doing their breakthrough role.
Yeah, it's all an introduction to these guys. Yeah.
It's just... Yeah,
names just, that are now like, they're regulars in Hollywood. Justin Timberlake does a movie every once in a while. Eisenberg and what's his name? The English guy, Spider-Man.
Andrew Garfield.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just they all put such a great effort into that movie, and they were overlooked at the Academy Awards because of their age, because they were kind of just starting out, and I think Jesse Eisenberg was nominated for an Oscar, but I mean. You think about it, when Justin Timberlake was cast in that movie, it was like, Justin Timberlake, come on. He had been in some movies at that point, but that was the movie where it was like, wow, Justin Timberlake can act. And that's the thing, starting with Zodiac, like, Fincher, and especially with Social Network, Fincher has proved that he's a fucking genius when it comes to casting. He and his casting director, whoever that person is, Justin Timberlake playing the guy from Napster, it's brilliant because somehow his persona just works for that movie. It's just so maybe Justin Timberlake isn't the greatest actor, but he was the best actor for that role. You felt that, he was just a perfect jerk, and like you could totally buy that Jesse Eisenberg's character, Mark Zuckerberg, would be totally infatuated with this guy. So yeah, I mean, there's so many great things about the Social Network. And is it on your list?
I'm not going to give my list away to you, Ken.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure if I should keep talking about it, or should I keep talking about this movie, or should I...
I'm not going to tell you it's on my list, but I'm going to tell you probably shouldn't. You probably
shouldn't. All right. So yeah, number 10, David Fincher's Social Network. A fantastic movie. Now I'm going to go on to number 9 on my list is... The Coen brothers Inside Llewyn Davis. The Coen brothers have made such great films before that movie. Fargo, Miller's Crossing, No Country for Old Men. But what's so great about Inside Llewyn Davis is just how different it is. It feels like a change of pace from them, but in a lot of ways it's not. A lot of it is typical Coen brothers, but there's a warmth to that movie. It feels like there's not, because it kind of ends on a sour note.
And the whole movie feels kind of cold too, like the cinematography. The
cinematography is cold, but the way the Coen brothers treat Oscar Isaac's character, Llewyn Davis, I feel like there's a real empathy there. with that main character.
Yeah, you feel for him, even though he's kind of a dick. You really feel for him.
It's the ultimate movie about like the starving artist. I don't think there's ever been a movie about that subject matter that's been as good as Inside Llewyn Davis. And you know what? It's like Social Network. You just get, thanks to the cinematography, which is just brilliant. It's just, it's so icy, like I said, icy cold, and like you really feel like the coldness of like New York City in the early '60s, and especially those scenes in that club that where Llewyn Davis gets to play, and all those other people, or the Bob Dylan, the next folk star gets to play, and like. The way the cigarettes just light up and the smoke and you feel that it feels so legit. And we talk about like blockbuster directors like James Cameron and like Guillermo del Toro or whatever. Those guys, they build worlds with their movies, their big movies. But Coen Brothers, since their first movie, and especially with Inside Llewyn Davis, they built a world with that movie. That movie is a world. It's not just a movie. It's an entire world. And the last point I'll make about it is that what's even more touching about Inside Llewyn Davis, and the reason why I think it's the best Coen Brothers movie, the best. And I'm saying I'm saying that even though I consider Fargo to be the best movie of the 90s. But I think it's the best because when you looking at it again, the movie feels like it's an exploration of what might have been if like there was only one Coen brother, if like or if like one of them like had died, or like it feels like the movie, because Llewyn Davis had a close collaborator,
right?
Up until when the movie starts, the collaborator's dead. He's long gone, or not long gone. He's gone. Recently died.
Yeah. And
he's just kind of like struggling to make it on its own. And I saw someone make this point, and it just like, after seeing the movie and reading that point, like about how this could be about what if there was only Joe Coen? What if there's only one Coen brother? Yeah. And that like, oh man, that touched me, like, because like and I'm such a fan of Coen brothers for such a long time.
Yeah.
Reading the movie from that kind of personal view, that really got to me, because like, and I'm watching it again, I really felt it, because it felt so tangible that like this could really be a movie that maybe they didn't intend for this to be that, but subconsciously maybe that this is about a movie where like they explore like, what if there was just one of us? Maybe that we wouldn't be nearly as good if like we weren't complimenting each other all the time. It's just like that bond that you have with like your sibling. The creative bond, like I wish I had that, like it's, I think anybody wishes what the Coen brothers have, they both love writing, directing, they both like movies, and they make movies, you know what I mean, and like they have such a great thing going on, and I think Inside Llewyn Davis is about what if there was just one of them, would they be nearly the people who they are today? If there's just one of them. And yeah, it's a fantastic movie, and it's a fascinating movie because of what I just said. Now you go.
All right, well, I don't know how to follow. I can listen to you pontificate about cinema endlessly, Ken. You've got a real knack for talking about movies, and
I think that was the best like minute that I ever did.
Sure, it's definitely up there. I mean,
go on.
So how do I? It's like following up. Anyway,
just go with your gut. Go with your heart.
No, I don't know if I'll be able to say as much about these two.
Go ahead.
You're able to, but thank you. I appreciate your vote of confidence. This is a daunting task to take your choose 10 movies that came out in the last 5 years. That's a long time, a lot of movies. I mean, I started with a list of over 50 titles, just going through the list of what was released, what came out. Oh, I like that. And then I narrowed it down. Some more. And even while you were just talking about The Social Network and Inside Llewyn Davis, I was still debating on 10 and 9. Because, like you had said before we started recording today, you have lists. You're constantly keeping track of where these movies are in your brain because you're blogging, you're writing, and this is something that you've been doing for a number of years. For me, it's just kind of like, oh, I like that movie. It just goes in my brain as like, oh, if that's on, I'm going to watch it, or I'm going to want to buy it, or, you know, if it's a rainy day and I got nothing to do, let's put that on. You know, I love movies from a different perspective than you do. But
that's why this podcast is so interesting. So
you got a little bit of balance.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So we're looking at 2010, 11, 12, 13, and 14, and I'm thinking about it. I'm looking at right now. It's only the 6th. It's been the 6th of January for 11 minutes on my end. For you, it's still the 5th. You're on the West Coast. But the point is, December just ended. 2014 just ended. So
holy shit, it did.
It's gone. It's gone.
Man,
it's out. 2014 is in the past. And a lot of these movies that are on my list, they're movies that came out, before then. You've had time to think about it, time to really look back and say, God damn it, I love that movie, 2014, just a month ago, some of these movies I've seen for the first time. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to say or to place them in a list competing with those movies that, have some... Even though it's only 5 years, there's nostalgia there because you remember what you were doing, back in 2010, 2011, who you saw that movie with, who you talked about it with, you just remember where you were. Yeah. So, long story short, I'm going to get the 2014 stuff out of the way. That's going to be number 10. Maybe someday we'll do a best of the decade, going into 2020 or something like that, and this movie will be somewhere else. But for now, just because this movie was so high on my radar, something that I've been looking forward to now for about 2 years, and I've only seen it within the last month, and I don't want to talk about it too much. I think you know what it is at this point, but it's Paul Thomas Anderson's Inherent Vice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had to get it out there just because, that's what I'm saying. It's something that I've really been looking forward to and following, and I read the book, and I've just been in this movie. So finally seeing it was more than just watching a movie for me. It was an experience. And that's, that goes without saying when you're talking about a filmmaker like Paul Thomas Anderson. But I had to include it in this list just because you're talking about your favorite films of 2014, and I don't see nearly as many movies as you do. So for me, the movies that I do like, I feel like they're even that much bigger because I don't have as much to compare them to. How many times am I going to go all the way up to New York City with the girl that I love, and we're in a rush. We ran out of gas on the way up to the theater, so we had to get gas, and it was an adventure, man. And we finally got to the theater and got good seats. And 35 millimeter, which you don't get to really see that much anymore these days. I don't know how it is over in LA. All right, but in Toms River,
it's amazing.
In Toms River, New Jersey, it's digital everywhere, and a lot of people don't even care or know the difference. So, for me, it was a big deal. It was a big deal, and I look forward to seeing this again and seeing where, because I'm sure it's gonna, be in a different position if we do any other top 10 lists. But for now, that's my number 10. And I wasn't sure how you'd take that because, like I said, it's so new, it's so recent, and I juggled between that and like 3 other titles from 2014. But when I really think about it, between the 3 movies that I was thinking about, I had to include something from this year. That's the one that has to shine through.
I respect that. I think that's a worthy member. That movie's a worthy member of your list. I'm still kind of wrapping Inherent Vice from my mind. I got to see it again, and we're going to be talking about it at length, so we won't talk about it too much in this episode.
That's why I want to get it out of the way. Number 10, okay, we don't have to talk about it anymore.
All right, fine, but yeah, I certainly respect that. Being on your list. It wouldn't be funny if I actually hated the movie.
That would be good.
No, I'm just kidding. But I don't. But all right, let's go. What's your number 9?
My number 9. Okay, so this is a movie that came out last year, 2 years ago now. Wow, back in 2013. Huge year for movies. Amazing year for movies. And this is one that really hit kind of close to home because I think that it created a world that showed where we were headed as a society. You're talking about social network, Facebook, things like that. People, now it's normal to walk around with a small rectangle in your hand looking down constantly.
Oh, shit. I think it was good.
People are going to have neck problems. That's going to be a common thing, just from, constantly living on your phones and they're, having computers all around constantly. This guy took that idea and spring forward this new idea, a love story, based on a man and his computer, which, you know what? Like, it seems like kind of the first time you hear about this movie, you're like, oh, I don't know, that sounds a little far-fetched, but we're really, we're not that far away, and this is a not so distant future, overpopulated and high-waisted, and a lot of people on their phones. It's Spike Jonze's Her, and I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are on including that. I actually kind of got a little excited because I knew where you were going with it, and that's a great pick. Not on my list. I will say that it's for some reason it's not number 21 for now. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I listed out from all the way to like 80, but that's what's cool though, because I can look back at my list and tell you where I put mine. And you know what, maybe Her deserves to be higher. I'm not sure. I've only seen it once, but it definitely does touch you. I mean, it's at 21 for a reason, because I really did enjoy that film. Mm-hmm. But I really like that film. But yeah, like you said, the premise is something where I could see people being turned off by it, just the premise alone, not really getting into it, or even when they watch it, they feel uncomfortable watching it because it's so. The reason why is because it's so honest, it's so earnest, and Spike Jonze has always been so good with that. When he directed Charlie Kaufman's scripts with Adaptation and Being John Malkovich, and then when he made Where the Wild Things Are, but especially with Her really feels like a Spike Jonze film. It feels like the movie where you finally really get to see what he's about. Yeah, this was the first time that he worked on the screenplay all by himself, right?
Yeah, and you find out is that Spike Jonze is unabashedly romantic. Perhaps you've read Rebels of the Backlot. Almost like naive to the point where it's like a breath of fresh air, like, because you'll never, if he writes his own stuff more often, you're never going to get an outlook like Spike Jonze, because it seems like he sees the world differently than other people, doesn't it? Like, he just has like a different viewpoint of the world. It's so childlike, and he's a grown man, but he has a very childlike enthusiasm about the world. That I mean, you look at Where the Wild Things Are, and you would say, well, that's a movie about childhood. But I feel like Where the Wild Things Are, the emotions in that movie feel present.
That's one I really have to revisit. I've only seen that once.
Yeah.
Not since it came out in theaters, but yeah, I loved that movie. I really, really enjoyed it when I saw it.
Yeah, and I just I think that's why that movie is so good, and that's why it manages to surpass its premise, because. Or, people kind of like being weirded out by its premise, because Spike Jonze has such a unique vision and a unique perspective on, this particular relationship between Joaquin Phoenix's character and Samantha, the OS. Because of that, and because of, the great performances and the fact that you feel like Scarlett Johansson is really there, even though she's not, like, it really is a great movie, and I really respect it being on your list. I'm actually glad it's on your list, even though it's not on mine, because it gives us a chance to really, yeah. But let's move right along, because we want to really get to our top five. We'll really go into the meat of these movies when we get to the top five. But let me go into number 8. Number 8 is a film from the UK. And I really thought about this, and I didn't see this in theaters, actually. I saw it on DVD a couple months after, the following year. Came out in 2010. It's Mike Leigh's film, Another Year, which came out in 2010. And I had to include it on this list because it's such a great movie, but Mike Leigh has such a unique... I say Spike Jonze has a unique worldview, but Mike Leigh has a unique way of directing. He doesn't start with a script. He has his usual core of actors, and they improv. Like they have like a general idea of who the characters are, and then they improv the entire movie, like through rehearsals, intense rehearsals.
Wow!
And so, what's great about Mike Leigh's films is that it gets like the little things in the characters, the little things that you may not get if you're just one person writing. Each of these actors bring their own thing to the movie, and a lot of times with Mike Leigh's films, someone will come along in the movie and like really shine because, and what you get a feeling of is that perhaps when they started out, this movie was going to be about something else, but because this character was so interesting, because this actor found such an interesting perspective on this character, it became something else. And what happened with Another Year, it's about this Asian couple, I think in their 50s or 60s. The husband is played by Jim Broadbent, who's been in a lot of Harry Potter movies. A lot of British actors have been in Harry Potter movies, but. And his wife, played by Ruth Sheen, and it's about how this family's how this husband and wife, how their lives interact with their friends and family over the course of 4 seasons. That's why it's called Another Year. It goes from the spring, summer, fall, and winter.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that premise is that like the seasons kind of reflect like the moods of the characters, and I'm. If memory serves correct, it ends in winter, and the one character that like at first starts out being about this husband and wife, but I gotta look it up because I want to make sure I get the character's name right. I remember when Another Year came out, and it premiered at Cannes, and it had a lot of buzz from that. But the actress who had a lot of buzz, especially, was Leslie Manville. And what's so great about her character is that
Mary.
Yeah, Mary. She is so lonely, and for some reason, like as the story goes on, even though it's about this husband and wife, it really becomes about her. And I just love the way the movie kind of like switches its perspective. Even though it stays on the husband and wife for the most part, it kind of really takes an intense look into this character because you wind up feeling such a sadness and such a empathy for this character who wants to be like this happy husband and wife, but she's alone and she just doesn't really have what they have. And it's a movie about like not just appreciating what you have, but like the people that are in your lives and like how time goes on and how it affects people. It's very very broad like that, which is actually kind of similar to number 7 on my list, but it's very broad. Like the general ideas of the movie is very broad, but because it hones in on such a specific character, like the themes of the movie really shine through, and it ends on really kind of like a sad, pondering note. And yeah, I kind of rambled with this one, but I really really enjoyed this movie, and it was under the radar for me. I kind of just put it in. I always liked Mike Leigh's films because of his style and all that stuff. But even I always kind of underrate his movie going in. I'm like, I don't expect it to be on my lists. You know what I mean? I don't expect it to be on my top 10 lists. But then I watch it and I'm like, damn, this is a great fucking movie, and that's what it is. And it's crazy because Another Year is just kind of, it's not really specific plot wise. It's really about the characters, and yeah, it's just fantastic. It's a really fantastic movie.
That's educational for me because I not only did I know about Another Year, I admit I've never even I'm not aware of Mike Leigh or his films. So something that we've never really talked about before.
I wish we did because he just came out with a movie this year called Mr. Turner, which stars what the fuck is his name? Yeah, Timothy Spall. Timothy Spall's he was also in Almost Famous. He's been in a lot of different movies. He played Winston Churchill in The King's Speech. But I haven't seen Mr. Turner yet. But yeah, Mike Leigh is just you put his movie in, and you put the movie in the DVD player, and you just really don't know what to expect. And it's because the movies don't have a structure, really. They're not like a typical screenplay structure.
This one because, too, Mr. Turner, it's like improvised?
I guess. I haven't even seen it. Like I said, I haven't seen it yet. But another really great film from Mike Leigh is a movie called Happy Go Lucky with Sally Hawkins, who was in Blue Jasmine last year with Cate Blanchett. I don't know if you saw it. But I don't want to get too far into it. But it's just you just kind of you don't really know what to expect, and all of a sudden you're hooked into these characters, and the movie just kind of moves you in a way that you don't really get from other movies because it's so character specific, because it gets into all the little ins and outs of like humanity, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Had to put it on the list. And going into number 7. Let me go into number 7.
Go right.
All right. Number 7 is the only 2014 movie on my list, and it's interesting because throughout the year, when this movie came out, and it's going to be number 1 on my list of 2014 movies whenever we eventually do that, because I can't deny it. It's getting all these rave reviews. It's winning all these awards. I don't know if it's going to win the Oscars yet, but we'll see. But I just can't deny it because it's such a huge movie. It's small in budget, but it can't be any bigger in scope. It really can't. Yeah. And I don't know about you, Justyn, but like this movie is so personal and seemingly because it's so personal and specific, and it takes place over 12 years. I think you know what I'm getting at now.
Sure, of course. No, by now, I knew. I think going a couple sentences ago. But
all right, okay, it's Boyhood, but the movie is Boyhood.
Oh, I thought you were going to Grand Budapest. Oh,
I think you know. I think you know what I mean, though, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
It's so specific to this character, like I said, and it's similar to the previous movie that I just said. And yet, with Boyhood especially, like it couldn't be more universal. I mean, I think that's the reason why so many people love this movie, because there's a lot of scenes in it where he's just spray painting, underneath a bridge or whatever, or playing video games or whatever he's doing, or when he's a teenager and he's like messing around with his teenage friends and like making fun of a kid for being a virgin, and I'm just like, why is he in my life? How is he in my life right now? Like, I feel like, and what's even crazier about Boyhood is that like I have a son now, and so I have like a multiple perspective thing going on where it's like I look at Boyhood because and it resonates with me because I grew up. I was a boy who grew up, but also because I see how Ethan Hawke's character grows up from being, and you know what I think, honestly, because Mason, the main character, you follow him from age 5 to age 18, but really through his parents, you're kind of following him through from 18 to adulthood, because like you kind of see where he might go, like with his parents, you kind of see what direction he might take. I mean, because he's kind of, a lot of people complain. There's some complaints about like, he kind of was, Eller Coltrane, who was the character, he's kind of a blank slate. He's kind of very passive. He's very like idea oriented. He's kind of he's not really aggressive. With his personality, he doesn't have an aggressive personality. But I think that's perfect. I mean, I feel like if he was really aggressive, or if he was like a huge drug taker or something like that, I don't think it would be as universal, because he's such a. Because I think it's through his perspective. So like naturally through his perspective, and because the movie kind of chooses specific moments in his life throughout 12 or 13 years, I think what it does is we really get to see how everyone around him grows up too. We see him grow up, but we really get to see how Patricia Arquette's character grows up, how Ethan Hawke's character grows up, how Ethan Hawke's character, the father, goes from being like the cool dad to being like dad, like a father, like he has a new child, and he gets married. Those scenes are just so unbelievable to me. It's just because it gets it so right. Like at a certain point, like that happens. Like all of a sudden, like you may have that cool uncle or whatever you have. Like all of a sudden they just become adult. Like they were like your bud for such a long time, and all of a sudden they're like they care about like taxes and insurance. All of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like they get rid of their cool car, and it's just like that. Those little things, like Boyhood gets all those little things right.
Sure.
And that's why, even though it's got all the accolades, it's gonna get it may get all the accolades that's out there, and that might take it down a peg for other people because it's played out for other people. But you know what? I can't deny it. It's such a universal movie. Justin.
Well, I told you that there were a couple movies that were, vying for the to represent 2014, and Boyhood was definitely one of them. That was a toss-up. I really wanted to include it because, how this has never happened before, where somebody has done something like this. Richard Linklater went over 12 years with the same cast, and not only doing that, like that's ambitious enough, but he told one hell of a story, and it's definitely a good decision of his to, like you said, to make Eller Coltrane's character Mason kind of this blank slate, because going back even from the look of the kids' bedrooms, the clothes they're wearing, the pictures of them in school, like it's so nostalgic. The music that is playing, you project yourself and you remember where you were when all this was going on. And not only that, but like I'm thinking of one of the earlier scenes with Ethan Hawke where he takes them out to dinner or whatever, they're bowling or whatever they're doing. But like I remember going out with my mom's boyfriend at the time, who was kind of like a father figure for me, and it was like now I'm seeing it from his perspective. He's hanging out with these two kids, but he's just a guy.
Yeah,
and you don't really think about that when you're a kid because it's just like that's dad or that's mom's boyfriend or whatever whatever your situation was. You don't really look at these people until you get older as just people. And it's interesting that this movie was able to really, it just got it all right. Like you said, it just got it all right. It was able to show you this story and like all the stuff that he went through, like even things that I've never experienced, like mom getting remarried or whatever, and the alcoholic father and stuff like that. But the way that it's told through the point of view of Mason, you're right there and you feel for him. And
that shit happens. I mean,
every day. And then you go from living in the nice big house to living on your friend's couch with your two kids.
Yeah,
and it really made me it made me want to call my mom watching this movie.
I know,
because,
right?
The Patricia Arquette's character, I can't remember her name in the movie, but she really, you see this woman who's really been just given a raw deal. She and the father of her kids don't work out, and now she's stuck with these two kids, and they live, the majority of her kids' lives are not, they're not living very well. They're living in shitty houses or an abusive father or whatever. Like they're not well off with it, but she has the determination to make something of her life, and she's constantly working like throughout these kids.
She tries to make it work so hard, and eventually she does,
But, like, there's that last scene before he leaves where she's, like, breaking down because he's leaving, and it's only now that I realize it, but, like, it's like all that work was for them, and now they're going,
Yeah.
And it's like, what did you spend the last, like, 20 years doing, So, I just wanted to call my mom and be like, hey, I just watched this movie, and it made me want to thank you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's just watching her just kind of break down like that. The movie kind of poses these big ideas, and it's like ultimately it's like, what is this all for? Like, why do we go through this? Like, not just like Mason going through the trials and tribulations of going from age 6 to 18, but it's like, and I think this is. You know what? I mean, especially, and let's kind of get the, elephant out of the room. But I mean, like, if you're a child of divorce, you know what I mean? I mean, or a child of, if you have grow up with, single mother, and then, her mother gets remarried or has, a boyfriend or all that. Like, I've been through that. Yeah. You've been through that. Like, I think especially because it goes through that route, that made it even more. I was like, whoa. Because, when the movie started out, I didn't know what was... I knew Ethan Hawke and Patricia Arquette were in the movie. You know what I mean? But, like, the fact that, like, the father wasn't in the picture in the very beginning. He wasn't in the picture at that point. And you're like... And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. This is a little too real for me. This is getting a little too intense. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, that shit was... It was kind of mind-boggling. You know what I mean? Maybe if you didn't go through those experiences... those types of things where it's like, oh, come on, the alcoholic stepdad, come on. Yeah. But no, that shit happens.
Yeah, it didn't rely on it to the point where it's like, oh, come on, we know that story, we know that exists. It really gave us a fresh take, and it's like kind of the kid's point of view, but like you also saw things that that Mason and his sister didn't see. Him hiding the liquor in the laundry room or in the garage or whatever. But yeah. Scary, because that does happen every day. Mm-hmm. And the movie just felt like it was coming from a deeply, deeply personal place. You could feel that, when a director really opens his heart to you, and that's what Linklater did. He opened his heart to us, to the audience, and he deserves all the credit that he gets for this movie.
And moving on to number 6, because we did 876. Moving on to number 6 is another director who really opened his heart the best way he can, because he's not one who really is someone who's revealing. He's a very reclusive director, and he made this film that not a lot of people. A lot of people, you either love this movie or you don't really know what to make of it, or you hate it. And that movie is Tree of Life by Terrence Malick.
Okay. As you were going on, I was like, okay, I think he's talking about Malick. But okay. Sorry.
Brad Pitt, Sean Penn, Jessica Chastain. That movie put Jessica Chastain on the map. And this isn't the only movie on this list that features her in it. So,
interesting.
Okay. But yeah, again, I didn't even realize this, but 876 both kind of have a link there, which is
a link later.
Kind of like really exploring these characters' lives, and with Tree of Life, Malick explores, the kid. I guess played by Hunter McCracken. I think who played him, but Malick takes these little bits and pieces from like growing up, and that's where that portion of like the movie is what really stuck in my brain when I left the screen. There's a lot of big moments in Tree of Life. There's a lot of big ideas thrown at the wall. Like I think of it as like a plate of spaghetti thrown at the wall, and a lot of it sticks. Some of it doesn't. It may not be as perfect. Like if you want to get into technically, maybe Tree of Life isn't as like sound or perfect or concealed as Boyhood is, or Inside Llewyn Davis is, or especially Social Network. Social Network is like a machine, Tree of Life, for me, it actually resonates with me more because it doesn't quite work, because it doesn't quite add up. I don't know. I really, a lot of what's in the movie is kind of inexplicable. A lot of the Sean Penn scenes are inexplicable, but where he's just kind of wandering around on the beach. You're like, what, but like. I get this feeling, you get this feeling that Malick is really going for something deep here, and like so deep that maybe he can't even quite grasp it. You know what I mean? That nobody can grasp it, like the purpose of all things. And I don't know, maybe that really resonates with me. Movies that really try to ask the big questions. You know what I mean? And yeah, with Tree of Life, I just really. It really hit hard with me because it just gets the combination of the music and the cinematography. Watching like Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain have like their first child and watching it take its first steps. Just the way it kind of like goes through like these little bits and parts of like it kind of goes through like the moments that Boyhood skips. It goes from like age 0 to 5. but like in such a quick montage type style, and it's just like, whoa, you're really watching this baby grow up into something, and those scenes were just so amazing. And then like you have like, you know, the scenes where it's just like, you know, of like in outer space and like the beginning of time and like the dinosaurs. There's just so much to this movie. It's got everything. You know, it goes back and forth in time, and it's just, and yeah, it's a lot to take in, and a lot of people might call it a pretentious movie, but I really admire this movie for really tackling these broad ideas. But you know what? Even if it doesn't all work, a hell of a lot of it does, and because of that, because most of it works. That's how good the scenes at work is. Mm-hmm. It's number 6 on his list. It's imperfect, but what's great about it is some of the most the greatest, groundbreaking, breathtaking scenes that I've seen in movies. Like, which is a big thing to say, but I mean it. When it doesn't work, it's an experiment. You know what I mean? For me, when it works, I felt like I was watching the greatest movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
That's what Tree of Life was for me. Number 6.
Yeah,
Justyn.
I have to come around to finally seeing that. You know, I've told myself that when it comes to Terrence Malick, I'm going to go back to the 70s, the movies that he made, like Badlands, and kind of work my way up. The first of his movies that I've seen is Thin Red Line, and that was before I really realized, you know, who it was that I was watching, like how that was like the first movie that I'd made in decades. So I want to go back and kind of discover what made him a big deal back then, because I've read about him and I know his story. Yeah. And then I'll be able to go and see Tree of Life and the other movies that he's made since then.
Yeah.
Listening to you describe it, it's got to be something that I see in the near future. Yeah, very interesting stuff.
All right, go ahead. Go. All right, let's start with your number 8.
To my 876. Number 8 for me. You're speaking of a young actress in your last one, Jessica Chastain, and that was the introduction for many people. Not for me because I never saw that movie, but for me, my introduction to her came in this, which was also my introduction to a man by the name of Jeff Nichols and an actor by the name of Michael Shannon, and it's a movie called Take Shelter.
Nice. Okay.
And this is a movie that I admit I've only seen it once, but that one viewing was captivating enough to really resonate with me. And when I was going through the movies year by year, I was like, oh, how could I forget Take Shelter? How could I even, I don't own it on DVD, or I don't even remember where or how I watched it the first time I watched it, but I remember the story of this small family. This man and his wife, and their daughter, who I believe was deaf, and he's getting these this premonitions of the world ending, and he's preparing for it by building this. He's got this project, and he's focusing on it, and nobody else. His wife has faith in him, and the rest of the town thinks he's crazy, and he tries to warn everybody. And it's just this story about this guy trying to take on this task, and I don't know, maybe you can help me out because you've seen it too, and you can kind of dive in a little bit, but...
This might come as a shock to you, but I actually haven't seen Take Shelter.
Get out of here.
I've always been meaning to see it, but I haven't seen it. Is that crazy?
That's kind of... That rarely happens, where I talk about a movie that you haven't seen.
No, I think it's only fair this time around, because I talked about a few movies you haven't seen. But yeah, go... But to the best of your ability... do go on. But no, I'm glad it's on your list because I've been meaning to see it, and now I definitely have to see it. But yeah,
I don't really know what it is about Jeff Nichols that I like, because I've only seen a few of his movies. I've seen this and I've seen Mud, but it's hard to sometimes it's hard to describe why you like the things that you like. And sometimes you just do. Like, I remember the way that this movie felt to me. It was just like, this is right. This is just well done, and it's one of his earlier movies. So the fact that he was able to do that early on is really impressive, and he's a young guy, so he's got a lot to offer. But Take Shelter. The ending, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it ends on an interesting note, and the whole movie is kind of like this, just this steady, slow boil, where you're introduced to these characters, and then you see what happens to them, and how the town reacts to what this guy's doing, and then it gets very just very heavy at certain points. But I don't want to go on and on about it, because I can't really put my finger on what it is, because like I said, I've only seen it once. But it definitely has a place in the top 10, just because I remember not every aspect of the plot necessarily, but how it made me feel. And that's, I think, what you take with you when you're looking back at these movies, that you like. Oh, why do you love that movie? I can't explain it to you. I just do. I watched it and it did something to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
sometimes that's the best explanation.
That's why I was struggling with Another Year and Tree of Life a little bit, because what really sticks with me is how this movie made me feel. I definitely agree with that. What's number 7?
7 for me is another one with Jessica Chastain, which is I'm not even going to get into the introduction and building it up, but it's Zero Dark 30, and the reason behind that is because I've never really experienced a movie that goes from, like we've talked about how movies have a shift in tone or a change in pace, and it kind of takes you out of it. This movie is like getting into a car and starting off just like putting it in drive and letting it creep, and then it gets a little faster and a little faster, and then the last 15 minutes of the movie you just accelerate to 80 miles an hour or 100, I don't know, but fucking fast, like from everything, and it's Fast and Furious. No, everything that goes into it, and how relevant everything is, because this is recent history. This is we remember hearing about this on the news, and I remember being kind of surprised, like, oh, they're making a movie about this so soon. But it's fascinating to me the direction from which they're telling this story. You expect a movie like this to be about like these Navy SEALs and like, we went in and we got Bin Laden, but no, it's about this woman who, against all odds, against everybody who was telling her, just give this up, you're never going to find this guy, and she wouldn't give up. She was stubborn to a fault, but in the end of the day, she was right, and she had so much riding on this, her instruction and her guidance, and it talks about torture, and it talks about it shows you torture. The first portion of the movie is showing you what these guys did to try to get information, and a lot of the stuff that's recently in the news. They're talking about with regards to torture and if it's a valuable way to get information, and are these people going to get in trouble for what they did? These people, you see that it is kind of pointless or meaningless to torture a person to the point where they'll just tell you anything. So that comes out in the movie, and just a very fascinating story. But like I said, talking about how a movie makes you feel, my heart was pounding when you see these choppers in the night. Oh yeah, going into to do this mission, and it's silly because that they get that they get the guy. Exactly. So I don't know what it is, but that's just good filmmaking. If you're able to tell a story that people know. And at that point, that's the part that everybody knows. These Navy SEALs came in, one helicopter crashed, but they were still able to go in, and they shot him and they dumped him in the ocean for some reason, and then people are upset about that. Did we get him? I don't know, but whatever. But long story short, that's my number 7. I don't know. Do you have anything to add about Zero Dark 30?
I don't know. Maybe I will later on in this podcast, Justin. I mean, Maybe I shouldn't say anything yet, because maybe it's on my list. We'll see. What's number 6?
Number 6 for me is a movie that I would be willing to bet money is on your list, because I remember discussing it with you after we saw it together, and it is. What else can I say? It's a fucking ride. It's a great movie. It's just it's The Wolf of Wall Street. Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio, like you've never seen him before, and I doubt you'll ever see him again. Just off the hinges, just steam coming out of his ears. He's playing this guy, and he plays him perfectly. And you think about a guy like Leo. He started as a child actor, but most of us know him because of Titanic, where he's just like this very calm, cool guy, gets the girl, against all odds, he's on the ship, he's the poor guy who doesn't belong, but he makes it work because he's a smooth talker, yada, yada, yada. And that's kind of like, he got kind of typecast as, that slick pretty boy. And then it wasn't until later that he started doing different stuff. And I'm glad for, movies like Gangs of New York, where he was like, all right, I want to get a little dirty. And then, he's developed this relationship with Spielberg and Scorsese.
Yeah.
But thankfully, you get a movie like The Wolf of Wall Street that comes out, and it's a long ride that tells a story that's again relevant to our times, because we're now experiencing the repercussions for the greed and excess that so many of these guys, like what the hell's the guy's name? You can help me out here.
Jordan Belfort.
I almost said Gordon Gekko. Yeah, Jordan Belfort. How many guys like him, took advantage of a system that was there, and I think it's in our nature a little bit to do that. To get what you can while the getting is good, and he did it, and he paid for it. But he had one hell of a story, and I'm glad that we got to watch it on screen.
And I may have been glad to watch it too. Again, perhaps we should continue that discussion later on in this episode. What do you think?
I think that's a good idea. And now we're at
because it might be on my list. We'll see.
We got 5 more movies to go, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's a perfect time to go on break and then finish up this. I think this has been great so far, and we'll finish it up after the break.
Okay, we'll be right back in a few. You're listening to The Long Take.
Well, as you can imagine, folks, listing our movies from 10 to 6 in our top 10 movies of the 2010s was a pretty long process in and of itself. So, this is the end of part 1 of a 2-part episode. And part 2, which will be episode 6 of The Long Take, will be where we wrap up our top 5 movies of the 2010s. So stick around, stay tuned, subscribe to our channel, The Long Take Movie Podcast on YouTube, and if it hasn't popped up already, if you are listening to this in February or March, it's probably already available, but if you're listening to this before then, stay tuned, stay calm, and part 2 of our top 10 movies of 2010's list will be up within a week, guys. I mean, listen, the top 5 list, we went out for like 2.5 hours. It's pretty insane. So, and I'm the guy who edits these things. So, I'm hoping I can get it done in a week. We'll see. I'm gonna also see if anyone actually listens to this part of the episode. I'm gonna guess not. So, if you are listening, email tltpodcast@gmail.com with the number 5. Just the number 5 in the subject. Number 5. And then I'll know that you listened to this part of the episode. And honestly, I probably should have just stopped a minute ago. But my point is this. This is the end of episode 5, which is part 1 of a part 2 episode. And part 2 will be up on YouTube very soon. So, thank you for listening to this episode of The Long Take. From Justyn and from me, Kenneth Guidry, we really appreciate you taking your time to listen to us. And hey, tell us what you think of our list in the YouTube comments below. And let us know what you... I can't talk anymore. That's it.